Number 6. Shutter Island. Martin Scorsese's psychological thriller follows U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels investigating the disappearance of a patient from a remote psychiatric hospital. Teddy believes the hospital is conducting illegal mind control experiments and that he's being manipulated to cover up their crimes. He's convinced the missing patient, Rachel Solando, holds the key to exposing a massive conspiracy. His investigation leads him deeper into the facility's dark secrets, culminating in a desperate attempt to reach a lighthouse where he believes the worst experiments take place. The crushing revelation comes when Teddy discovers he's not a marshal at all. He's Andrew Laetis, a patient who's been committed to the hospital for years. The missing patient, Rachel Solando, doesn't exist. She's a projection of his own fractured psyche, representing his wife, who drowned their 3 children before he killed her in a moment of devastating clarity. The entire investigation was an elaborate role-play therapy session designed by the hospital staff as a last-ditch effort to bring him back to reality. His partner, Chuck, is actually Dr. Sheehan, his psychiatrist, and every person he encountered was playing a role in this psychological intervention. The most heartbreaking aspect comes in the film's final moments, when Andrew briefly acknowledges the truth, only to slip back into his Teddy Daniels delusion. His final question, which would be worse, to live as a monster or to die as a good man, suggests he may be choosing the delusion because the reality is too painful to bear. Number 5. Oldboy Park Chan-wook's Korean masterpiece begins with Oh Dae-soo being mysteriously kidnapped and imprisoned in a windowless room for 15 years with no explanation. When he's suddenly released, he's given 5 days to discover why he was imprisoned and who was responsible. Dae-soo believes he's living a standard revenge story: find his captor, get his answers, and exact his vengeance. He meets a young sushi chef named Mido, who helps him in his quest, and despite their age difference, they develop a romantic relationship. Everything seems to be building toward a satisfying confrontation with his mysterious enemy. The truth, when it finally emerges, is more disturbing than any audience could anticipate. His captor, Lee Woo-jin, orchestrated everything as revenge for a seemingly minor incident from their school days. Dae-soo had spread a rumor about Woo-jin having an incestuous relationship with his sister, which led to her suicide when they were discovered. But Woo-jin's revenge wasn't just imprisonment. It was psychological destruction on an unimaginable scale. He spent years manipulating events so that when Dae-soo was released, he would unknowingly fall in love with his own daughter, Mi-do. When Dae-soo learns the truth, he begs Woo-jin to keep it secret from Mi-do, then subjects himself to hypnosis to try to forget what he's learned. The final scene leaves us wondering whether he's successfully buried the truth or if he'll forever live with the knowledge of what he's done. Number 4. The Prestige. Christopher Nolan's tale of dueling magicians begins when a tragic accident sparks a bitter rivalry between Robert Angier and Alfred Borden. When Borden develops an impossible teleportation trick called the Transported Man, Angier becomes obsessed with discovering its secret. Angier uses Nikola Tesla's machine to create his own version, stepping into the device each night to disappear and reappear across the theater. The audience believes they're witnessing magic, but the devastating truth emerges in layers. Tesla's machine doesn't transport Angier. It creates a perfect duplicate each time. One version lives, one dies. For months, Angier has been drowning a copy of himself every night, committing murder to preserve his illusion. But Borden's secret is equally shocking. There is no Alfred Borden. He's actually identical twins living as one person, alternating between being the magician and his assistant, Fallon. They shared one identity so completely that they both loved the same woman and both raised the same child. Both men achieved the impossible, but at costs no rational person would accept: serial self-murder and complete loss of individual identity. Number 3. Jacob's Ladder. Adrian Lyne's psychological horror follows Jacob Singer, a Vietnam veteran haunted by disturbing hallucinations in 1970s New York. Demons seem to be stalking him, reality keeps shifting, and he can't tell what's real anymore. Jacob believes he's being targeted because of military experiments involving drugs used on soldiers. As his visions intensify, he discovers that his unit received a drug called the Ladder, designed to increase combat aggression. The military conspiracy seems obvious. They're trying to silence him before he can expose this secret program. The devastating truth: Jacob never made it home from Vietnam. He's dying on the battlefield, succumbing to injuries from combat. Everything we've witnessed, his post-war life, his apartment, his relationships, has been the elaborate final fantasy of a dying brain processing death. The film's title references the biblical ladder connecting earth to heaven, representing his soul's journey from life to death. His chiropractor, who heals him, is actually a spiritual guide helping him transition. Number 2. The Others. Alejandro Amenabar's Victorian ghost story follows Grace Stewart, living with her 2 children in a dark mansion. The children suffer from fatal photosensitivity, so the house remains shrouded in darkness. When strange things begin happening, footsteps, voices, opening doors, Grace becomes convinced intruders are tormenting her family. The supernatural activity escalates until Grace discovers strangers conducting a seance in her own home. In her fury, she confronts them, demanding they leave immediately. But their reaction isn't what she expects. The crushing revelation: Grace and her children are the dead ones. They died years earlier, and the intruders are actually the living family who moved into the house. Grace smothered her children in despair and then killed herself, but remains trapped in denial about what she's done. The servants are also deceased spirits from a different era, trying to help Grace accept reality and move on. Number 1. The Sixth Sense. M. Night Shyamalan's masterpiece begins with child psychologist Dr. Malcolm Crowe being shot by a former patient. Months later, Malcolm works with Cole Sear, a 9-year-old who claims he sees dead people. Malcolm believes Cole suffers from trauma-related delusions and works to help him communicate with these spirits. As Cole's condition improves and he learns to help the dead resolve their unfinished business, Malcolm feels successful. He begins reconnecting with his distant wife, who has been cold since his shooting. The Thunderbolt revelation. Malcolm died from his gunshot wound in the opening scene. Like the spirits Cole encounters, he doesn't realize he's deceased. Every conversation with his wife was one-sided. She couldn't hear him because he was already gone. The clues were always there. Malcolm never directly interacts with anyone except Cole. His wife never responds, only talks to herself. He wears the same clothes from the shooting. Doorknobs turn red when spirits are present, and Malcolm can never open doors himself. Cole's famous line, "I see dead people," included Malcolm all along. The boy was helping a dead person understand his death and find peace. Malcolm wasn't treating a patient who could see spirits. He was a spirit being helped by his patient to finally let go and move on.